I was finishing up the Orsinium main story quest because there's a free event going on. So if you finish up those quests, then you can unlock free mount, bear mount, and some outfits and things here in ESO. So I've been doing that this afternoon. And I finished up that quest line, and I thought it was a pretty well done quest line. It's, I guess, from the beginning of the game. It's been around for a while, but I never did it, so I did it today, and I liked it. But the theme of that is that King Karag is the orc king, and he starts off with kind of the right motives, but then as he becomes more powerful, he gets really, really fixated on the idea of doing whatever is necessary to hold together the empire. And he's willing to do anything to make sure that the greater good takes place and all of the clans are united. And in the process of that, he winds up doing bad things. So at the beginning of the storyline, he's a good guy, but at the end, he's the bad guy, and he winds up dying, and he's mourned for being once a hero, but ultimately someone who made bad choices because he wanted to do the wrong thing for what he felt was the right reasons. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it's sort of like that in life a lot of times, where we think to ourselves, well, I think I want to do what's right, and in order to do what is right, I've got to do what is wrong in the short term. It's that sense that if I bend the rules today because I have to, it'll make up for it down the road because I'll reap the rewards later. And then I can do the right thing later on. But right now, I have to do something that is regrettable because my hands are tied or something like that. And it's so easy to put off until the future the notion of doing what we believe to be right today. But ultimately, water finds its level, and there's a price to be paid for kicking the can down the road and doing things that aren't the right thing. If you do wrong by people, or you go against your conscience because you think that's what you need to do, it catches up to you. And so it really is better to just do the right thing at the beginning, even if it's not easy to do that, and then accept the consequences of that, rather than to go down the path of compromising your principles and then having to spend your life trying to figure out how to dig yourself out of the hole. You know, I was also watching Leave the World Behind on Netflix, and that's a disaster movie about a cyber attack that takes out the infrastructure and leaves people kind of facing a end of the world sort of scenario together. And it makes you think about the importance of preparation, the importance of being ready for perhaps something bad that could happen, and makes you think, you know, what would you do? But the real message of that movie is probably not just that you should be prepared, though I suppose that is a message in there. A big part of it is that you really need to be able to trust the people that you have around you, because if you can't trust the people in your life and then things go south, then what do you really have? You know, you need to be prepared, and you also need to invest in relationships that you can count on so that you don't have to face life's challenges and its adversity alone. And it got me to thinking about how we tend to sometimes like the idea of drama in our lives when times are comparatively good. You know, when you're relatively young and you're relatively healthy and you feel like you have time, then it's a lot easier to be selfish. And you don't put other people first, and you say, well, you know, I don't need anybody, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you should be completely living your life to always build your existence around other people's priorities, by no measure. But there's something to be said for the fact that we have opportunities to make hay while the sun shines, to do things that are going to invest in a better future. And then we kick the can down the road because we don't feel like we need to take those things seriously when we have the opportunity. But sometimes when a little more time passes, then we realize that those things that we were spurning, those things that we were kind of ignoring and not taking seriously, maybe we wish we would have taken them more seriously. And because there's a time, there's a point when we all have needs, when we all don't want to face life alone. There's times when we want to be treated with fairness and integrity, and we want other people to show care and concern for us, and we want to be treated on the level and treated fairly and all of those things. And it goes back to, do we do the right thing all the time? Because if you spend your time doing the wrong thing, you can't really act like you're a victim when it catches up to you. That's just the truth. You know, if everything is always a joke and you never take anything seriously, and your word can't be counted on and trusted, and you're doing things that you don't really think are right, things that you wouldn't really want other people to be doing, but you're doing them, well, you can't go and say, well, you know, I'm a victim of bad circumstances then, because you're choosing to avoid all the things that you could potentially do to invest in a better future. You choose to not take those better paths, and then it can't be a surprise when the consequences come. And that's probably a pretty big truth there. We tend to be guilty of that, I think, a lot in modern society. We don't practice the right principles, but then when the hard times come, we want to benefit from good fundamentals that we never were willing to embrace. And, you know, it's like in this movie, there was the story that was told of the guy who heard on the radio that the river was going to flood. And he said, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay there in my house by the river because God will save me. And then somebody came along and, you know, another person warned him, and he told that person, no, I'm going to stay there because God will save me. And so he stayed there, and then eventually the floodwaters, they started to come up, and again he said, no, I'll stay there, you know, just leave me alone. He was gonna, you know, he wasn't gonna leave because he was having faith in God. And so the rowboat, it went its way, and And then eventually he died because he drowned, and then he was mad, and he said to God, you know, why did you not save me? I had faith and I trusted in you. And God said to him, well, you know, I sent you a radio announcement, and I sent you your neighbors, and I sent you a rescue boat, and you rejected all of those things. So the truth is, we have opportunities every day to just live our life honestly, to live our life on the level, to make the most of every day in a way that is with integrity. And if we choose not to do those things, we choose to treat people injuriously, we choose to not take our relationships seriously, we choose to tell lies or build our behaviors on a system of omissions instead of being truthful and transparent about the truth, if we live our lives doing things which are not good foundationally, then it'll catch up to us. I think about people like this whole crypto craze that's going on, and everyone wants to jump on board and say, okay, you know, let's jump on this new crypto coin. There's going to be some kind of a thing that's going to go to the moon. It's going to be a $2 investment, and it's going to turn into $20,000 overnight or something one day. And people are gambling on this stuff, and they're saying, oh, you know, I'm gonna get rich. And maybe a few people do get rich, because there are stories of people who have made a good bet and they've got rich. But then what is the truth? The truth is, you invest in things that don't have any true discernible value, and you bet on the hope that you can earn something really huge without putting any actual effort in, and you think you're going to luck out and just basically get something for nothing. And then you look down on other people who might say, well, you know, I don't know that you're making the right decision. You know, like the people that are into crypto, I think, are a great example of that, because they'll look down at other people and say, well, you know, you don't understand. You know, like, I'm buying these NFTs and I'm getting this new coin because of something that happened on a chart, and I'm going to buy a bunch of this stuff and I'm going to be rich, and you're going to wish you would have listened to me and bought it, or whatever it is. And you know, but the truth is, they're trying to get something they didn't earn. They're trying to acquire something for nothing. And that kind of an attitude, it always catches up. Maybe it doesn't catch up right now. Maybe some people get ahead, and you always have a few winners. You always have a few people that are going to get ahead by doing the wrong thing. You always have a few people that are going to make it. It reminds me of this thing I was reading about, how people will say basically stuff like, I never wore a seatbelt when I was a kid because seatbelts weren't mandatory, or something like that, and I never had anything bad happen to me, and nobody else had anything bad happen to them. And so you don't need to be safety conscious, because the truth is, it's all just overkill, and it's alarmism. And, you know, we all just kind of didn't worry about safety at all, and we were fine. And that's true. A lot of people didn't worry about safety and they were fine. But the people who weren't fine, the people who died, well, they're not there to tell you about how they died. They're just not part of the conversation because they're dead. So the only people in the room that are really going to have a voice are the people who survived. So you're not going to have anybody there that actually can speak up to say, you know, I paid the ultimate price for this. You have all the success stories in the room. Like, you go join the cryptocurrency Reddit, you're probably not going to have a bunch of people who lost everything in crypto. Like, those guys just vanish off into the sunset and lick their wounds in private. The people that are all going to be on the Reddit, those are going to be the people that are aspiring to make the money. They're the ones that are trying to get rich, or the people that have had short-term gains. So it's easy to be deceived. You look and you see that some people get away with doing the wrong thing. You see some people actually even seem to get ahead by doing the wrong thing. And then you think, well, why should I do the right thing when it seems like potentially there could be better profits, better returns if I just jumped on a bandwagon and cut some corners? Because, you know, who wouldn't like to get that free island in the Caribbean to live on? But the house always wins, just like a casino. And for every one person that gets ahead, for every one victory you gain by doing the wrong thing, there's going to be several more that cost you. There's going to be more losers than there are winners. Because that's how good things that aren't earned come to be gotten. Lotteries get won because a lot of people lose their money in the lottery. That's how that one guy gets a bunch of money. It's not because the lottery is a good investment, it's because it's a bad investment. So it's important for us to remember it's better to do something with good fundamentals than it is to be enamored of the promise of things that are too good to be true. Not to mention the fact that life's a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding when you truly feel like you can be honest. And I will say this, there's a difference between privacy and dishonesty. You can have a private life where you don't tell people what you're doing. You don't allow yourself to be an open book. Your business is your own. That's okay. I am not saying that every single aspect of your life needs to be on display as public knowledge for everyone. That's just not a good practice, because there are people who will be toxic. There are people who will be harmful. There's people who will try to take information that they gain and use it against you. So privacy is often a very good policy to have. But so is having an honest style of living. If you live your life always telling lies, that's different from living a life that's private. You can have a private life, but don't have a dishonest life. And a lot of the lies we tell, they're not even lies we tell other people. They're lies that we tell ourselves. When we say we're going to do something that doesn't align with our conscience, when we decide we're going to go down a rabbit hole that we really feel like we know better than to do it, but we give in to some kind of peer pressure, we give in to people that want to manipulate us, we sell ourselves out in some way, and then we pay the price. Because once you tell a lie and then you tell another lie, because it's easier to tell a lie to cover up dishonesty than it is to come clean, after a while your life becomes a total lie. And then nobody can take you seriously at that point. And all the cards are kind of stacked against you, because once you establish that you can't be trusted, then even if people want to trust you, they know it's hit and miss. They know it's just a luck of the draw whether you're telling the truth or whether you're playing games. So let your yes be a yes. Let your no be a no. And do what you believe to be right from the beginning. If you find yourself caught up in something that you believe to be wrong, understand it's okay to walk away from something. I know from my personal experience in life, there's been a lot of times in my life, thankfully not now, but there have been a lot of times in my life in the past when I found myself in bad situations. And yes, I got myself into those situations. So that's 100% on me. But there were other people who wanted me to be in those situations and to stay there. And that's something I've found. Toxic relationships, toxic situations, you can have people that suck you into something that is wrong. It could be something that's legally questionable. It could be something that's ethically or morally questionable, whatever it is. And then once you're in that situation, people are like, basically they've got you in a vice grip. They know, you can't afford to get out. And they say, okay, well, now I've got you. So you've got to play along. Because if you try to leave, then I'm going to ruin you. Or people are going to find out the truth, and then you're going to be in trouble. So you just go along with it. And maybe there was a time when it was your bad decision that got you into that position. But after that initial mistake you made, it's other people who will go out of their way to make sure you can't leave. And then you're in bondage to the evil character of others. And that's where you have to understand. When somebody says you can't walk away from something, yes, you can. You can say, I'm done. I can't control what you're going to do, but I can control boundaries in my life. And I'm not going to live the rest of my life building my future on a lie or doing things that I believe are wrong. And maybe you do pay a price. Sometimes we make mistakes. And then we look and we say, you know what? That was a miscalculation. I was wrong. I shouldn't have made that investment. I shouldn't have made that decision. I shouldn't have taken that path. And then you course correct in the future. And in the future, you say, okay, here's some rules I'm going to follow because I don't want to make that same mistake again. That's okay. Because the truth is, accepting and acknowledging a mistake and then doing differently in the future, you probably will wind up paying less than you will pay if you keep on repeating the cycle of ignorance and dishonesty and white lies and having a lack of courage in your daily life. There's a lot of people who might have courage to fight a physical fight, but they don't have the courage to change so that they can live a more noble life. And we should never be too sure that we're right. We should have personal integrity to always do what we believe to be right. We should have moral integrity to always try to understand truthfully what is right, and to know that sometimes our idea of what's right can evolve. Sometimes what we think is right today, we're going to have to acknowledge that we didn't have it right. Just how science is like that. Scientists have an idea, and they might say that this is a certain way, and then you might read another paper after a while and it's going to say the opposite, because more data became available, more study went into the matter, and it became discovered that the truth wasn't what we thought it was. It was different. We were wrong. That's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to change. And that's a really powerful thing to understand, because in life, there's a lot of times we want to do something, but then we think, well, people are going to judge us if we change. Maybe people have an idea of how I'm supposed to behave, or they have an idea of what I'm going to do, or they have an idea of what I think is funny or what I don't think is funny, or whatever it is, you know? And then we think, well, I don't want to change because then people are going to judge me. Well, let them judge you. It's all right. You know, we worry so much that other people are going to judge us, that other people aren't going to like something that we do. And the crazy truth is nobody really cares that much. Even the people that act like they're going to do something bad to you if you don't do what they say. Or they act like they care so much if you don't live up to their expectations. The truth is, they don't care very much. You do your own thing, and chances are, even if somebody doesn't like it, they're going to forget about you very quickly. People just like to be judgmental. People like to dabble and meddle in other people's affairs, but people don't really care very much about what you're doing. Just remember, you're going to have to live for the rest of your life with your life. All of the critics and people who are out there to tell you, here's what you got to do, they don't have to live with your life at all. So don't define the rest of your life by something that somebody says in a brief, fleeting moment. Somebody who doesn't even really care. Principles that endure. Let's live our life by those. You know them when you see them. It's always nice when you see something that's permanent, isn't it? You see a building or a monument or something made out of stone with great masonry work or something. You look at it and you see beauty in it. Even if it's old, even if it's run down, there's beauty in it. Then you see all of these kind of silly fake things that get put up, like those hotels in Las Vegas. They're beautiful, but you can tell that they're kind of fake too. Like nothing in Las Vegas is designed to stand the test of time. It's all just there like a pop-up circus for entertainment. Our lives shouldn't be like that. Our lives should be something more solid, to where we know what we can, what we stand for, and other people know that they can count on us. And then even if your life is sometimes a little bit broken, that's okay. Just like the Parthenon, it can be in ruins, but it's still beautiful. It has ruin value because it was built with fundamentals that stand the test of time. Good luck with your adventure, as always. Try to live a life every day that is built on things that you believe in, and fill your days with things that you enjoy. Give yourself completely to the things that you endeavor to do. And live a life every day without any regrets. Might not be the most glamorous life, but at least it'll be one that you can live with. Till next time, good luck with everything. Thanks for watching.